Bitterness is a funny thing. We create it within ourselves, hold it in, let it fester and roil and churn, and even spit it back at those that are hurting us, or we think are trying to hurt us, in the same way. We are in charge of how we handle the slights against us, real or imagined. We either ignore them and move on, or we let them define us. In the world of Bionicle, the being associated with bitterness is Ehlek of the Barraki.
That are alive, you're coming with me.
ZX Spectrum Commodore 128 and 64. I hit the floor, I hit the shore. Got gaming skills from days of yore. I close the dead computer.
Welcome to Beef Snake Nerdcast. I'm Bolter, and today we are diving into the wonderful world of Bionicle once again. Last time we were here, we spoke about the heroic and primordial Kitongu. In an appropriate contrast, we will be looking at a villain of bestial aspect and vicious nature. Fun fact, I've been pronouncing it Ehlek, think electricity, this whole time. So if I accidentally revert to that in this recording, that's why. I've been doing it for decades now. God, Bionicle is old, isn't it? Anyway, Ehlek is a truly ancient being. He and his 5 cohorts predate much of the modern Bionicle landscape. So way back in the time, before time, there was an independent group of 6 rulers that banded together into an expansionist League of 6 Kingdoms. The League's rulers were violent, power-hungry conquerors, and waging wars for fun and profit across the Mutation universe. One of these rulers was the emotionally volatile Ehlek, a cruel, brutal tyrant who ruled over a chain of islands in the west, centered on the island of Zakaz. Ehlek's species, they never got a name in the canon, were naturally amphibious, making him strange and uncanny to his land-based partners. Ehlek used this to his advantage, having a deadly marine-capable army for both land-based conquests and aquatic campaigns. The League of 6 Kingdoms marked the first rebellious elements in the Mutation universe ever, rebelling against the Great Spirit Mata Nui and his 3 virtues of unity, duty, and destiny. They sought power only for themselves, and one day they demanded ownership of the great island of Metru Nui itself. They thought none would dare stand before them. They were wrong. The answer to their demand was met with the mustering of the, currently still loyal, Brotherhood of Makuta, led by an up-and-coming Makuta named Pterodax. Ehlek had the right tools for the job. His protosteel claws could tear through Makuta armor like nobody's business. But his forces were broken by Pterodax's assault, and with the other 5 kingdoms crushed as well, Ehlek and his co-conspirators were poised to stand trial, until they were whisked away by a mysterious being in a flash of light. The 6 would-be despots were teleported to a secret, impregnable prison called the Pit, and Ehlek was left stewing in his failure and indignation for millennia. Here he was imprisoned for time uncountable by the Brotherhood of Makuta for taking Metru Nui, for those frail and weak Matoran. They denied him what he deserved? Curse those pitiful Matoran for having the favor of Mata Nui. This should be the end of Ehlek and the Leaguers' story, but an event called the Great Cataclysm changed all that. With the Titanic upheaval, 3 things happened. First is that the pit was breached, the cells broken open, and many of its inmates, like Ehlek and his fellow League members, escaped. The other was that the pit was plunged deep into the sea. And the third is that a strange, aggressive mutagenic substance, simply called pit mutagen, was released into the surrounding ocean. While Ehlek himself was already well suited to the environment he found himself in, the pit mutagen affected him in ways he did not expect. His lungs became purely aquatic, and air would suffocate and choke him. But the most obvious was the growths of electrical charged spines that formed on his back. Still ruled by his emotions, but now tempered by his imprisonment, Ehlek and his fellows now called themselves the Barraki. The Barraki laid claim to all beneath the seas, culling and quelling any who stood before them. Each Barraki could instinctively now command a type of oceanic rahi, native sea life. Ehlek roused a huge army of venom eels. He even began to be called the Eel by other Barraki. Ehlek kept his place in the group and took this time to build the Barraki a mighty fortress to rule from. And then a large chunk of island from above sunk into the ocean and landed right on top of his fortress. This sunken island would be called Mari Nui and was full of Matoran survivors. Matoran had once again spited him, and Ehlek was pissed. Ehlek was the most direct of all the Barraki in his attacks on Mari Nui, his hatred of the Matoran driving him to wipe them out of the ocean for good. Hippity hoppity, literally get off my property. His trajectory would change, though, when something fell into the subnautical realm. A mask. A mask of legend. The Mask of Life. The Mask of Life, the Kanohi Ignika, was an incredibly powerful object with life-altering powers of growth and change for anyone who had come across it. And it just fell into this cut-off, dark part of the universe. The Barraki wanted this mask badly. With it, they could destroy Mari Nui and escape back to the air-breathing world above and get revenge against the Brotherhood. No, the whole Matoran universe. No, Mata Nui himself. They would all pay. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Barraki would need to find the Mask of Life. Safely. See, the Mask of Life is not a normal mask. Most masks in Bionicle offer a superpower of some kind. Levitation, telekinesis, accuracy, that sort of thing. But they're just an inanimate object. A mask. The Mask of Life is the stuff of legends. It has a mind of its own. It has wants, aversions, and can manifest its own powers without a wearer. No other mask can do this. If it does not like you, and you touch it, it will mutate you into something useful for itself. Or turn you into a grotesque gibbering mass of mouths, eyes, and tentacles, Zinch style. So the Barraki had to go about this the right way. Carefully. They also had a whole ocean to cover, so they decided to split up and hunt it down. Well, the rest of them did. Ehlek wanted to destroy Mari Nui, but his peer, Karapar, talked him down, and he went along with the plan. Things are going to get bumpy. I think the writing in this chapter of Bionicle was a bit all over the place, but I'll do my best to cover it and keep it coherent, at least from a perspective of one character. So they had a singular purpose, and you'd think, hey, they'll work together now, right? Well, no. Evidence had arisen amongst the Barraki that one of them had betrayed the League of Six Kingdoms to the Brotherhood of Makuta millennia ago, and was still actively informing them to this day. Ehlek was angry. Ehlek, along with Karapar, one of the other Barraki members, went hunting for the Mask of Life. Instead, though, they stumbled across another pit prisoner and ex-Order of Matanui member, Brutaka. More on him later. Brutaka agreed to team up with the Barraki and claim the mask, which was now located in the hands of a Matoran named Dekar. Ehlek was seething that a lowly Matoran had the mask, and the trio hurried to where another two members of the Barrakis, Kalma and Prydak, had cornered the wayward Matoran. From here, chaos broke loose, partly because of the mask and partly because of the suspicion amongst the Barraki themselves. Brutaka was dragged away by a giant squid. He's okay. Ehlek zapped Dekar with lightning, causing the Matoran to drop the mask, and Prydak made a grab for it. The Mask of Life said no thank you, and sent out a blast of light, knocking everyone backwards. Ehlek was blasted hard against a wall and began rambling about something. But when the dust settled, Prydak firmly had the mask in his possession. And the other Barraki, Ehlek included, ran into 5 Toa? The Toa Mari. These Toa lied about being fellow pit prisoners and tried to get the Barraki to trust them. Instead, they were penned up in a cave by their army of Rahis. At this point, though, the Barraki began fighting. The mask was in their hands / claws / tentacles, but no one could be trusted. Anyone could be the traitor. Ehlek himself was actually injured in one of these brawls and restrained by Prydak. I'm sure that'll improve his mood. After some mild torture, Ehlek was found innocent, but Ehlek, of course, was fuming. Unfortunately for him, his massive eel army was also buried and crushed by the Toa Mari. Guy just can't catch a break. Ehlek, though, was all up in his feelings, so instead of attacking the Toa Mari for the loss of his army, he sent what was left of his army to attack Prydak's army of Takea sharks, weakening both armies, and he totally wasn't butthurt about the whole torture thing. What are you talking about? After the Rahi armies were broken up to lick their wounds, what was left of them anyway, the Barraki reconvened to discuss new evidence they had found against the traitor. With concrete proof, they discovered his name is Takadox. This revelation would have been major, but it was deflated in the moment when one of the prison guard robots they had repurposed from the pit started laughing. These things weren't programmed to laugh. Turns out, Makuta Pterodax was hiding in the body of one of these pit robots and basically responded with, "Took you long enough." That's right, the guy who beat them at the height of their power was right in front of them, laughing at them once again. Ehlek was furious. The Barraki sprung into action to go beat the ever-loving hell out of this robot. But Pterodax still had all of his skills and powers in this robot body. Even teamed up, the 6 Barraki were still no match for Pterodax. So the Barraki summoned their armies to overwhelm Makuta. It worked, and the robot body was destroyed. Pterodax was surprisingly unbothered by this, but more on that later. All that was left to do was the last battle for the Mask of Life. The Barraki fought the Toa Mari and were hammering the heroes into the ground. Ehlek was unleashing all of his bitterness and anger at these Toa, and he was winning. But the mask would slip from Ehlek and the others' fingers when the mask was donned by Toa Matoro. He pulled the Toa Mari out of danger and made sure the mask was out of the Barraki's reach forever. Ehlek was infuriated. After this battle, Ehlek, along with Kalma, would be recaptured and imprisoned by the new pit warden, Hydraxon. And on orders from, the Order of Matanui, 4 of the Barraki, including Ehlek, were given parole, kind of. The condition was joining the war against the Brotherhood of Makuta. Again. Ehlek agreed, but he wasn't happy about it. Upon agreeing to this deal, the mutagen was cured and the Barraki could breathe air again. Ehlek was sent, along with his fellows, Kalma and Mantax, to secure the alliance of the Dark Hunters, a wildcard group that had not taken sides yet. The 3 Barraki managed to reconnect with their roots as rulers and statesmen. States monsters? And brokered a deal with the Dark Hunters against the Brotherhood of Makuta. They now had allies. During the war, Ehlek would return to the seas and rally a new army, made up of both venom eels and others of his own species. They still never got a name. And they battled the Brotherhood on the aquatic front of the war. After the war ended, Ehlek escaped the Great Spirit robot onto Spherus Magna, escaping into the wilderness and, presumably, into the seas, back into a comfortable habitat, escaping reprisal for his horrible actions and war crimes. Rest assured, though, with all his allies scattered, his army in shambles after the war, and his power base truly broken, Ehlek must be incensed. And that's Ehlek. One of, if not the most bitter, spiteful, and emotionally unbalanced creatures in the Matoran universe. Everything is a personal attack, an affront to his power, and a targeted attempt to wound him in some way. His tempestuous nature, suspicion of everyone, and expectation of betrayal from anyone, coupled with his natural and mutation-based abilities, make him very dangerous to friends and foe alike. One can only imagine the horrible conditions of his tin pot kingdom back in the ancient days, or how he would have used his powers if he had succeeded in claiming the Mask of Life for himself. Luckily for everyone, he failed.
Thank you for tuning into Beef Snake Nerdcast. I have been Bolter, Chronicle of the Ages. Like and subscribe for more Bionicle content. Follow my social media below and ring the bell to never miss a video. Next time we will be speaking of the misbegotten Iron Tribe of Bionicle. Until next time.
どんなことを言う